What's up, everyone, and welcome to the Corporate Bartender. Have we got a treat for you today? We are so excited to have the amazing Dr. Bob Nelson on the program. If you don't know Dr. Bob, you better get on that because you are missing out. Dr. Bob Nelson is considered the world's leading authority on employee recognition and engagement. He's worked with over 80% of the Fortune 500 and is a prolific author. He's written over 30 books on management, employee motivation, and engagement, and he's sold over 5 million copies. Today we're talking about his newest book, Work Made Fun Gets Done, and we're diving deep into what it takes to keep employees checked in and fired up in this hybrid distributed world. This is easily one of my favorite TCB episodes ever. So buckle up, TCBers, grab your favorite cocktail, and let's get right on into it with Dr. Bob Nelson on today's TCB.
Welcome to SkyTeam's The Corporate Bartender. If you work in HR or make people decisions in your organization, this is the place to be. Now pull up a stool, belly up to the bar, and join us for The Corporate Bartender.
All right, well, welcome, everybody. It's Wednesday. It's your favorite day. It's Corporate Bartender Day. It's the 1st of December. We've been marveling over that fact in the pre-show. Can't believe that it's December and that it's almost 70 degrees here in Denver and in Austin, and people are watering their lawns while tuning up their snowblowers. It's kind of a crazy day. It's episode 111 of the Corporate Bartender. We've been at it for a while, and we're still going strong. Yeah, right? Triple ones. And it's Dr. Bob Day. We've got Dr. Bob Nelson on the show. Let's give him a big welcome.
Hey, I thought there was gonna be free drinks here. Come on.
Cheers, Dr. Bob.
Oh, you get the drink. Well, I hope that's a double, so you can have mine as well. There you go.
Yeah, when you have to go make your drink at 3:30 for the pre-show, you got to make it big because it's got to last till 5. So yeah, today we've got a guest. Looks like we've got a new person here. Ruby approved him. So Reb Bryant, welcome to the Bartender.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it, guys. Great to be
Reb,
here.
we always ask new folks, we ask them 3 questions. We ask them to share with us who you are, what you do, and tell us one really boring fact about you.
So I'm a senior HR business partner for Hawk Manufacturing in Loveland, Colorado. I've been in HR for a while. That may be the boring fact. And let's see, where am I located? Yeah, so Northern Colorado, it is warm up here as well. So we're in the 70s today. And probably the boring fact was before I did the Coast Guard work, before I did the HR work, I was in the Coast Guard. So that would be the boring fact.
Right on. What was your job in the Coast Guard? What did you do?
I did a lot of different things. I drove ships. I did some logistics work before there were supply chain issues, some law enforcement, all those crazy things. So
whenever in the Coast Guard, they say we drive ships. I always thought you sailed ships, but in the Coast Guard, you drive them.
Yeah, it just kind of depends. So yeah, I did have the opportunity to sail a couple of times, but
all right. I was just testing your Coast Guard story.
They took my license away. So yeah.
No, maybe you're just making that up.
Yeah.
But,
well, David, they sailed them in the 1800s back then.
Oh, did they? They didn't carry that forward once they installed engines.
Well, welcome, Rev. It's good to have you.
Welcome.
Good to be here.
Thanks for being here with us. Being a long-term HR person, you're in good company here. You've got a bunch of grizzled, salty old HR people here in this community as well. Look at Lindsay. She's like,
Less of the old young man.
That's why things tend to get a little irreverent around here.
What?
Maybe you're a little jaded. Maybe.
Maybe.
Not until the second drink, though, right?
That helps. Jokes
Laurel,
get way funnier.
They do. Laurel's taking umbrance with the word grizzled.
Not me.
Well, awesome. It's great to have everybody here. Hey, I did some more work. I've been teasing and threatening this for a long time, but it's going to be real here. We're going to do some merch. And now I have a form where you can tell me what you want and how many of them you want and in what size, so I can actually get them going. Right now, I got 3 designs out there. The newest one is the one on the right, inspired by Lori and I's trip to Waco. There's a Waco shirt like that I bought that I love. And I thought, I'm making a TCB shirt like that too. So if you want one, skyteam.cloud/TCB merch. And you can order it up there. And for our tight, close-knit community members, I'm going to give it to you for free. So you let us know. Get in there quick before we start charging money, because we might make $1.50 on T-shirts.
What's the red lettering on the middle one?
You're gonna have to wait and see, David.
I can see.
But I like that otherwise. Why should I care? It's free merch. So
right. It says
sorry, I was just gonna say it's a colorful quote from Laurel.
Yeah.
That's on the back.
It says David Hewen, King of Austin.
All right. Can I order 2 or 3? Is there a limit to my order?
No limits.
Okay.
Awesome. Well, so do sign up. Do let me know, and we'll get those things cranked out here in the first part of the year. So yeah, today's a big day. We've got a guest. We've got Dr. Bob Nelson here on the show. Dr. Bob, he's worked with a few companies. I don't know if you know any of these. Do you guys recognize any of these logos? Apparently, Dr. Bob has worked with Laurel's dog is going to go crazy. Apparently, Dr. Bob has worked with 80% of the Fortune 500. And during the pre-show, I said, that either makes you really good or really old. And he said maybe a little of both. So Dr. Bob he's considered the world's leading authority on employee recognition and engagement. And that's a topic that's near and dear to us here at the Bartender. He sold over 5 million books on management, employee motivation, and engagement, including titles like 1,501 Ways to Reward Employees, 1,001 Rewards and Recognition Field Book. There's a theme here, 1,001 Ways to Energize Employees. And his newest book here, Work Made Fun Gets Done. Yeah, see more eggs popping it too. There you go.
Yes. Just to make a heavy point on this being December, if any of your guests mail me their mailing address, their preferred mailing address, I will send them a complimentary book. How about that?
Look at that.
Well, isn't that nice? We'll send you 4 T-shirts too.
I already picked one of them out. So yeah.
Do we have your email address?
Yes.
We'll get that.
It's really sure.
Okay.
It's pretty easy. So it's bob@drbobnelson.com. There you go.
About as easy as it gets. And I told Dr. Bob that we were going to have to talk about this photo here. This is his before and after photo. So Dr. Bob, what's going on with the fro over here in this picture?
That was when my son first saw. That's my high school senior picture. My son first saw that. He was I don't know, 1 year old. He goes, "What's Daddy bean?" So, and I'm still trying to figure out the answer to that question.
So needless to say, Dr. Bob's been there. He's been there. He's done that. He's got the T-shirt. Let's give him a big welcome, a TCB welcome here to the Bartender. Welcome, Dr. Bob. How you doing today?
Excellent. Just met my first grandchild, and it's pretty delightful.
That's amazing. So you got that first big family Thanksgiving.
Yeah, kind of a tag team affair. That's everyone's on duty with the new baby, so
right.
It's kind of fun, kind of different.
That's awesome.
Wouldn't trade it for anything.
Right. Well, that's awesome. Thanks for being with us today. Why don't you, if you don't mind, tell the folks a little bit about you, about your history, and about how you ended up becoming the world's leading authority on employee recognition and engagement?
One step at a time, I guess. That would.
Is that what you wanted to be when you grew up?
George Lennon, life's what happened when you're making other plans, right? So I published my first book at 21 and self-published. And the book you held up is my 31st book. So hardest thing I've ever done. And yet I keep at it for some reason. So, and I guess, it's fun, or it's certainly fun to be published. It's a lot of work to do a book, but it's fun having them out. And I love the promotions of them. And I think they add value to people's lives. So that what else could be? All the books I do have my values embedded in that, which is the case with any writer. And for me, those are 100% positive, 100% practical. So one of my things I'm known for is using 100% real life examples from actual companies that are actually doing what we're talking about, and often with the results they got or a comment from them. And I think that's a good thing. I had a reader send me from Indiana a couple months ago. They sent me a kind of a unsolicited testimonial. She says, your books, when I read your books, it makes me feel like you're personally giving me permission to do the right thing. And I just absolutely love that. I want that on my tombstone.
That's awesome.
Gave people permission to do the right thing.
That's amazing.
That's fantastic. 31 books, Bob. That's a big lift. You said it's hard, yet you keep going back to the well. Why do you do that?
Well, I guess I keep having more stuff to say. Some people say that any author's writing the same book over and over. So all mine are out of the cut of cloth of maximizing employee performance and building the culture and the environment that you can get the best from people and attract the talent. And boy, holding on to them is pretty important today. So, and those are the deliverables that my books tend to have to different degrees. And so the latest one on fun is kind of, frivolous topic. I think I have on the back cover from Inc. magazine. They said, fun is frivolous, we know, unless you want to attract and keep people, then it's not frivolous anymore. We got to take it seriously. So let's take it seriously. Yeah,
for sure. It's interesting. We talk about engagement, and we talk about, how things have changed since March 13th of 2020. And we always share a news article. And, I was looking for news articles that were related to engagement in prep for the show. And I came across this one. This is in HBR, and it's called How Companies Can Improve Employee Engagement Right Now. And it just came out in October. And there's essentially a checklist in there because our capacity to deal with stuff is diminished. It's been a rough 18 months, right? And so I wanted to just kind of float this article out here and talk about what these authors, these world-renowned authors on engagement, clearly no Dr. Bob, but they have a checklist in here. And I was curious as to, what your thoughts were on building and retaining employee engagement in the world that we live in today. I mean, this was a thing that was hard in 2018, and it's different now. And I'm curious, as to your take on that. So the checklist contained 3 items. It said basically you need to connect employees to do what they care about. It said you need to make the work less stressful and more enjoyable. And then it said you should create what they called time affluence.
I love that.
Yeah, I thought that was a cool one. But let's knock them down one by one. So, from a perspective of take this checklist and go do it at your office. I mean, I'd be curious to what you think about that. But do you have sort of the starting point? If you don't know anything about employee engagement, what are we supposed to go do with our employees, especially now?
Well, those points are all certainly solid. I'd say if there's a theme there, it's maybe a little bit return to the basics. So to not make the topic too confusing or too hard to put your arms around that you never do anything. And so like the first one, connecting with things that people care about is really the starting point of motivation. And I've been amazed in working with companies that I often have to ask, what they've got going, and most companies have a survey or they do an engagement survey, and often I gotta start over and say, okay, your people said that they feel recognized or they don't feel recognized. Whatever the answer is, you can't do much with it because you didn't ask them what they want to feel recognized. And I've worked with corporations where that'd be like the first thing I'll say in the starting gates to say, well, we need to do some pulse surveys or focus groups. And they go, oh, no, we've got all the information. And when they show it to me, it's like, you got a lot of information, but you haven't answered specifically what do people want to feel recognized when they do good work. And until you answer that question, you don't know what to focus on. Anything else, you're guessing. And boy, the guesses are all over the map. Often it's what the manager wants. They're saying, well, they must want this, and well, if they didn't say it, that's not what they want. So a manager might say, or the company might say, well, we know what they want. The one I'm thinking of, they say, oh yeah, we know what they want. They want more money, they want promotion, and they want better benefits. Well, that's what they said. Wow, it's amazing. No, they didn't say that, but that's what we're spending all our money and time on. So it must be what they want. Well, okay, just hold on to that thought and now go ask them, because I've done a lot of asking and with companies around the world, and just in a training activity, just say, hey, just think the last time you felt special, that we're excited about what you're doing and looking forward to coming to work, and what gave you that feeling? What was said or done? Who was present? Whatever specifics. Let people talk about for a while, and then we'll get some call out responses. And having ask that question across the country, hundreds and hundreds of times, every now and then someone says, well, I was promoted, usually, a couple days earlier. So it's a recency effect. But right. Beyond that, no one ever says more money. They say, what comes up 99% of the time is personal, thoughtful, specific, meaningful gestures of thanks from someone they hold in high esteem, their manager, their colleagues, maybe someone higher up in corporate, all variations of that. And I go, well, all right, we got some learnings. No one mentioned money.
Well, and I always find it fascinating that those don't even have to be high budget fixes. That is such low hanging fruit. That is so, accessible immediately.
And actually, I think that's actually part of the problem, because it's so obvious, right? It's common sense. That what could be easier than to thank someone for doing a good job? Almost, it's so obvious that most managers feel they must be doing it because it's their intent to do that, but they never actually get around to doing it. In their head, they're doing it, and they'll say, "Hey, Jerry did it. Jerry did it once again. He's my best person." Didn't say anything to Jerry. Didn't write him a note. Didn't call him out in front of the group. But in their head, they go, "Jerry's my best guy," and until he quits,
Right.
Exactly.
That's what happens.
Yeah.
So starting at that basic level is really important, and then and taking what they say seriously is also a simple step. But again, that usually doesn't mean a big fancy program. It's just the simplest things that just to do a focus group and have 22-year-old engineers just almost on the verge of tears saying, I just wish someone would notice me. I work hard, I make my deadlines, I'll work through the weekend, but nobody says or does anything. And you just want to give the person a hug, do this for your manager, it's kind of sad, but so that's why I say is the key. And then taking what they say seriously and actually doing those things would be the starting point to get you into the game. The second point that HBR article had was making work less stressful, which actually in some research is number one reason why people quit their job is stress. And, fun is a release valve for stress. So you got to, and so the timeliness of the latest book is, once again, the best marketing is luck, so but I've always believed that fun is a great salve to the hustle bustle, the daily grind, and it's not that hard to do. There's simple things like I've had groups where we'll just, hey, when we meet, start with let's rotate doing a joke every time we meet, and who wants to do next week's, and everyone's we go around the whole group, and if you're not good at jokes, you got a week to practice, and even if they end up telling a bad joke, we all still laugh. So it's a great connector. Laughter brings people together, and in the book that you each will get, we break fun into different levels, from making your own work more fun to what a leader can do, to what you can do as part of a group, and then what the organization can do. And I'm delighted to have done a special focus on SkyTeam, because they're we research companies that have fun as the core value, and we only found 17 of them where they listed as a core value, and SkyTeam actually has fun listed as 4 of their core values. They're ODing on fun there. So, and it was a delight to see how they work that into their work. It's not. It used to be you work. We'd pay you to work and go do fun on the weekend. And all that's kind of gone away as we've morphed our life experience to be both work and fun at the same time. So if you're in a place where they don't, with this call to have people come back to work, I heard, New York City financial companies, when CEO said, I refuse to pay people for doing their laundry. It's like, okay, then I guess they won't be doing that. They probably won't be staying with you either, but you made it very clear, or I was in speaking last year in Albuquerque, and I heard the story about the CEO that said, we gotta hatch it down and time to get serious about what we're doing here in this company. So I expect everyone to be in their office by 8:30 every morning. Mm-hmm. And this one person in the all hands meeting kind of raised her hand and said, I can't do that. What do you mean you can't do that? Well, I'm a single mom. I got 2 kids, no one else to drop them off at school, no one else to pick them up in the afternoon. And I also have an ailing parent. I've got if I get a call from my mom who's 88 in the next 10 minutes, I'm taking her to the doctor, or emergency, whatever it is. No one else to do that. Well, if you're serious about this job, you'll be in your desk tomorrow at 8:30. Well, what choice did she have? She quit. Mm-hmm. Turns out she was the #1 revenue producer for that company. Oh, because she was so motivated, because she had a job that worked with her life circumstance. And that's what I think everyone wants now is make it work for what I got going, and it's not the end all. And it doesn't just happen. I think we've proven it doesn't just have to happen in an office downtown. I mean, there's one test of the pandemic is that, 71% of workers went to working at home. And for the vast majority they were actually more productive than when they're in the office. And as they're going back to the office, they're finding they're disappointed in what they're getting, because it's not they don't feel more productive going back to the office now. It's and a series of other things. It's a disappointing return to the workplace after the pandemic. So there's not going to be any going back. You can't go home again. You can't step in the same river twice. And I think how work used to be is forever gone. And so the more we tried to say it's got to be a certain way. And again, to bag on the New York City financial companies, CEO of JP Morgan said a couple months ago, if you can go out to eat in New York City, you can come to the office. And it's like, God,
those are so not the same.
Not the same.
So not the same.
Well, my wife's company, they started to get them to come in. They upped the ante, and they're catered lunches. And she still doesn't come in. Nah, that's okay. I'm fine. You guys go ahead without me. I don't need the 2-hour commute and the potential exposure to whoever's not vaccinated. So we're good. And if they insist that she comes, actually, this parallels what this research said. 71% work from home, 65% said they wanted to continue to work from home, and 58% said if forced to return, they will quit.
Yep.
And my wife was one of those. In fact, I'm working in Seattle. In our home here, we have 5 people, all working virtually. And my son works for 100% virtual company. There's no place to go into. 100% virtual. It's called Unstoppable Domains. They sell domains for cryptocurrency. And they just had Cyber Monday. They just had a $2 million day. They earned more on one day than they earned it all 2019. 100% virtual. 100% virtual, and they're not missing a beat. They have meetings. It's not meetings to meet. It's meetings on specific issues, and they ask everyone who's presenting to record their presentation in advance and post it for people to view at their own leisure. Wow. And then they do a quick, during the time of the meeting, they do a 2-minute wrap up and take questions. And if it's a 10-minute question, they're done, and whatever they do is that now archived because it was taped. It's very efficient, because
it's a great idea.
Meetings are 60% waste of time. They don't have that problem. And they the loss of the social, meeting people and stuff. They each week they randomly connect 2 people to meet each other in the company, and he and then they've got company all over the place. They he just did a meetup with people in Seattle that work for the company. So if you want the social aspect in the peer group, you can go make that happen, but you don't have to do that on work time. And it's all. I guess my point is it's all working. It's all working. There's unless there's no downside really, that they haven't been able to overcome. And I think we're going to see more of that.
Yeah, it's funny, Bob. You said those Wall Street banks don't want to pay people to do their laundry, but apparently they have no trouble paying them to bullshit at the water cooler for 20 minutes.
And my point on that too is if you pay people enough, they'll do whatever you tell them. Tell me where you want me to be, I'll be there because you're paying me so much. But for most of us, it's not just about the money. It's about what we want to be a part of and part of something larger than ourselves. And we want to enjoy our work. We want to have fun at work. We want to enjoy who we work with and who we're serving, and don't have to be in an office to make that happen. And increasingly, it's a distraction to be in the office. I know someone that works at Google, and they live downtown San Francisco. They drive an hour and a half, or that Google has shuttles, and they take the shuttle in the rain to Google headquarters in Mountain View, and they're doing that because we got to have a collaborative environment. And it just kind of laughs at the whole thing. He goes into the office and spends all his time on the phone with someone in a different building on a campus. There was no reason to have that commute, and I think we're not going to go back to that. The 2 hours of commuting a day is dead forever. That people are going to put their foot down, and if you don't listen to them, you don't believe it, they're going to walk, and they will.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's certainly a big digression on that second point. So real quickly, the third point of that article is create time affluence. I love that concept. Basically giving people reward of time. And I've been advocating that for many years. There's, in fact, and just people to be more creative about how they do that. So you can do that as a gift for an hour off or an afternoon off. You can do it as I know a company that beginning of the year, they're stressful times, and they announced to everyone that we want you to take an extra free day this year. They called it something. It was kind of a mental health day or something. And because they said, who knows better than when you need a break than the person, right? So we want you to call in, don't call in sick, call in well. I'm going to the zoo today with my kid, I'm going to whatever. And they insisted everyone use that during the year, and they could tack it on to their other vacation if they wanted. But I think that's the type of company that people think twice about leaving, because they've got the best interests of the employees at heart. And they're showing that in their behaviors and actions, not just talking about it.
One of the things I saw in the article that I thought was pretty cool, because we've talked about this, in several different kind of angles, but the idea of always on, right? And when you're remote, and that you can be in your chair at 7 o'clock in the morning, you can stay there till 7 o'clock at night because you don't have the commute, or because you don't, right, and so that's been like the challenge, is for people to set their own boundaries, to say, I'm going to stop or I'm not going to start until, and that can be hard for people to do, especially if they have a boss who doesn't walk that talk, who is always on, and then they feel compelled to be responsive to that in kind. But the example in this article was they systematically, through the email system, programmed it to stop delivering emails 30 minutes before the end of the workday, and then turned back on the delivery of emails 30 minutes before the start of the workday. So, and there were some workarounds, right? If you had something going where you needed to get in there, you could figure that out. But it set the tone that you are not expected to be on your phone every evening while you're trying to have dinner with your family or watch a movie, or, they systematically said these will not be delivered during these times. And I thought that was super cool.
Mm-hmm. I agree. There's I know a company in Silicon Valley that was before the pandemic, that they actually on Friday at 5, they would ring a bell and force everyone to leave to go home. Yeah. Because they didn't want to set a culture where, some cultures that become a real high work culture. It's in fact, my son was looking at this job they got with this firm, Unstoppable Domains. He got another job offer, and when he read their reviews, I said, my only advice, go read Glassdoor reviews.
Glassdoor.
5 minutes later, he goes, nah, I can't go there. But he's really excited about this place. But one of the comments he read, unless you work till 9 every night, you're not considered loyal to the company. And it was like, okay, forget about that,
Wow.
It's like the busyness badge of honor. Oh, I'm so busy. I don't have time for anything because I'm so busy. And that,
instead of someone saying, well, it sounds like you're not a very good planner, prioritize.
You're doing it wrong.
That person that's like that, they had a young kid who said, can't they put daddy into a slower group?
I love that. So in a red reading group.
Right. So, we're talking about this concept of time affluence, and I'm curious as to your take on this, Bob, because we have a client, one of their members is here with us today, and their company did a thing. They have these no meeting windows, right? Trying to give people time. Yvonne's nodding her head because she knows I'm talking about her. Trying to give their employees time, right? Which, from a philosophical standpoint, is great, and I get it, and it's well-intentioned. And in talking to some of the folks in the organization, that's the time when they know they can actually meet with some other people because they don't have meetings on their calendars. So it didn't take very many months for that no meeting window to have a black market. How do you, as the employer, when you're trying to do something, in this vein of creating time affluence, when you realize that your gesture has been worked around, what do you do?
Well, any policy is going to be worthless if it's not enforced. So I think, the best thing to do is for the CEO to make a comment on that, to say, hey, we were serious about this, and we want people to have their own time to actually work, to focus on the things that we need to do. A lot of companies have a time zone where, like maybe from 10 to 2, you will be available, but you're not expected to be available before 10 or after 2. And so if you, again, get back to what employees want, if you want more flexibility so you can, if you're still commuting, so you can at least get around the commute and come in earlier or later and miss the main commute and come in later and stay later, then yeah, you can do that because the window we have of meeting times is common knowledge. So there's maybe clarifying and igniting that. And it's okay to have something that didn't take on the first try. Say, well, okay, we tried it, we worked with it. Some things didn't work, and here's one of them. People didn't do it.
Right.
So we're actually serious about this, and ideally, you get the best performance when you recognize, when it works. So if I was working with that company, I'd say, what are you doing to reinforce those people that are doing it, and to put them, up as a model to follow. Or like I'd advocate, just have an interview with the CEO that's posted for the company where we hear him talk about what he does if someone tries to set up a meeting during that window. And says, as much as I like to, this is part of our culture that we don't do that. We actually don't abuse each other's boundaries. and okay, well, again, just redefine that we're serious about it. And when you have someone from the top saying that, then they get that lesson. The CEO of makes me think of a CEO of Morgan Stanley in the past. Anyway, they used to have a thing where they wanted people to not be frivolous in spending on purchases for office supplies and just pens and whatever. And so they did a thing where they when someone started, they gave them a bag, small brown bag with X number of rubber bands and pens in it, and said, "This is your kit."
Oh, man.
So it's exhausted, and they're able to save like, $5 million in office supplies just by have a fun thing out of it and a joke out of it. But people got the point that we don't, if we're wasteful with our resources, it's going to cut into our profits.
Hey, I have a question for you, Dr. Bob. In your experience, have you found that kind of around this time affluence and time management and meeting management and such, have you found a correlation between organizations that are good at prioritization or goal setting or writing OKRs or something that aligns the efforts of the organization in a meaningful way? Are they better able to then do these kinds of things? Because it occurs to me that
everything needs to flow from the strategic objectives, and how are those broken down by the divisions and the departments and even the KRAs. If someone's, ideally you want people that feel and support and are advocates for the mission of the organization. They're not going to do that if you just have it on the wall once. To actually have them living it is to be experiencing it, and so in the company that does that well, any employee can say how what they're doing ties into the bigger picture of the success of what we're doing, how this leads to better customer service or more streamlined processes, et cetera, et cetera. And it's exciting when you see a company actually doing it seriously instead of having a random approach.
Yeah, because I could see, and I've seen pockets of it in my own organization where when there's lack of clarity or the target keeps moving and people are sort of in this chaotic space and they're trying to figure out what they're supposed to be doing. Well, then it's really hard to say, don't look at your email in the evenings or no meeting hours because they're scrambling, right? And they're trying to figure it out and the target's moving and they don't know how to meet the expectation. And so that seems to trump any of those kinds of, other gestures about trying to give people more time. It's like, well, that'd be great, but I don't know what the hell you want me to do. So that's why I'm working this pace.
They got a high regard that they want to be viewed as a high performer, then they are going to put in extra effort. But if you're not clear on, motivation also starts with clear goals and expectations. And if those are fuzzy, then you get fuzzy results, and people are spending a lot of time, but maybe not working on the best things.
Yeah.
Again, that's why, in the ideal case, you got the mission and the strategic objectives and the core values, and they all should be pointing to that same thing, so people can state. And when you see it actually working, it's a beautiful thing. I think of Jack Stack at SRC, where he kind of pioneered open book management. And you can go to anyone in the company and ask them about, different financial quotients and what's the impact on customers, and they could all answer. People on the floor can answer it. They just all knew what were important things to make happen, and whether it's in my job or someone else's, so I can help them. It's necessary because that's what really counts. And again, that's the power of recognition. If you deploy it well, what gets recognized gets repeated.
That's right.
And it's the most proven principle of driving desired behavior and performance in any relationship, in any organization. And I ran into that in my doctoral studies, and it stumped me because I believe that's probably true. I was working for Ken Blanchard, who wrote The 1 Minute Manager, which talked about 1 minute praising and whatnot. But in my experience in working with several corporations, I never saw it in practice. So that's why I wanted to do this book, 1,001 Ways to Reward Employees, just to say, okay, skip the theories. Let's just look at examples of what people are doing and the results they get. And, maybe that same thing will work for you if you give it a try. And such was the case that in that book, the idea that came is a testament to education. Idea from a graduate school class I had turned into a book that sold 2 million copies. So,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
But the whole thing was common sense, which goes back to Voltaire in the 1760s. A few things are less common than common sense, or sometimes it's obvious that gets overlooked. Or I'm convinced, because I've been swimming in this challenge for so long, that I'm convinced that people actually, if the answer sounds too simple, they won't accept it. No, it's got to be a big fancy program. We got to spend a lot of money. We got to get a committee together. And go, really? Yeah. I work with a company in Connecticut, Boardroom Inc. They do newsletters, and they do these big books. And they started a thing called iPower, where they asked every employee, not any employee, but every employee, to submit 2 ideas every week for how we can improve things around here, how we can save money, how we can better deliver service to the customer, how we can streamline the process. And 2 ideas, that's what we're asking for. And then people did that, and they got thousands of ideas after they got up and running. And they didn't implement all the ideas, but they implemented a lot of them. And wow, it transformed the company. It led to a 5-fold increase in their revenues in a couple-year period of time.
Wow!
And it was just magical. But it was simple. But the magic doesn't happen by itself. You got to actually focus on the things. And in this case, it was just asking people for ideas. If they're closer to their job, they know better what will work for them. And instead of having a big committee to review those ideas and shoot them all down, what gives you the right to tell us what we should be doing in purchasing? It won't happen again. And you get another idea from the person, they would say, well, we actually want to, thank people for the effort. So they would have a volunteer from the work group each week review the ideas. And they trained them to say, look for the good in the idea. And more times than not, they say, this is a great idea. You should really do it. And they gave it back to them. Let us know if we can help you with your idea. Who's got more energy for the idea than the person who came up with it themselves? And so just to pick one out of the thousands they get every year, I remember they had a shipping clerk who, one of his suggestions just on 1 week, in the middle of the year somewhere, he said, next time we get this book that we sell and to print it at the printer, if we could get the trim size cut to 1/6 of an inch less, he said, it'll fall into the weight of the book will fall into the next postage rate. We'll save some money. And they said, is he right? And they cut up a book, and he was right. They saved $500,000 the first year.
Wow. A sixth of an inch.
A 16th of an inch.
A 16th of an inch.
And
wow.
that idea is from a hourly paid young kid who, you know, their chairman, Marty Edelson, told me, he said, Bob, I've been working in direct mail for 27 years. I didn't even know there was a fourth class postal rate. But the kid that's staring at the chart day in and day out, he knew what there was. If we can tap into what he sees and legitimize it. And so they did, you know, and that became he became a hero, a big success story, and that encouraged other people to put stuff in. Eventually they evolved it so that because they were making so much money from this simple thing, they said, we got to share the money. So they moved to a gain sharing of the profitability on a quarterly basis. And the only requirement to get the gain sharing, which usually was, you know, $3,000 or $4,000 a quarter per employee, the only way to qualify was you had to be putting your ideas in.
Submit ideas.
Yeah. If you didn't submit any this quarter, well, guess what? Yeah, sorry, you're not in the pool.
Wow.
Great.
They took a very simple idea, and it took a couple times to get right. But then as they learned and fine-tuned, it got better and better and stronger, better ideas. And I talked to a woman there. She said, my first day at work, I didn't even know where I was sitting yet. And I got pulled into a staff meeting. And within 30 minutes of coming into the front door of my first day at work, someone turns to me and said, what do you think we should do about this problem? She was like shell-shocked. She almost fell on the floor. Came from a company, she had worked there 8 years. No one had ever asked her ideas about anything, not once. And here she doesn't know where she's sitting yet. They want to know what she thinks. And it felt pretty good. You know, it got her thinking about other ideas and, you know, on the commute or the shower, whatever. And what were my 2 ideas this week, you know? And they just got better and better at it. They told me that one of the unintended consequences, delightful unintended consequences, that all their turnover stopped. Why would you want to leave to take another job if you can make whatever you're doing in the company now turn into what you most want? You know, it's like, it was just enormously powerful. So I see those type of things with the companies I work with, and I just want to share them with the world. You got to try this, you know? So
I want to ask you one more question and then open it up to the folks here. You know, engagement was hard before COVID. The assumption is that it's harder and more different now. A, is that the case? And B, what do you find is working most effectively from an engagement perspective in this distributed world that we all live in?
Well, I think the basics are still true. And to me, as I indicated, the basics for motivation is starting with the employee in terms of what's important to them, and not assume that you know the answer and not dismiss when they say something. And if they say, I just want to be noticed, maybe they're serious about that. You sure you don't want to raise? No, I want to be noticed. You know? And that what we want varies over our career. Because sometimes, like, if you're new in your job or you're trying to pay off student loan debt, you know, being paid a little bit more goes a long way. But after you know, maybe 5 years out, where you're able to pay your bills and live in standard of living which you're accustomed to, and maybe it's, you know, more being a part of the team, visibility with upper management, being given more responsibility. It varies over our careers. So it's motivation's a moving target to begin with. So you can't say, okay, we found the answer and now we'll just do this and we're done. It doesn't work that way. It's relationships are evolving, and the populace is evolving. Today, it's you know, like, I think people ask me in the hybrid workplace, I just did an article for Inc. And, you know, if there's one message to companies trying to make hybrid work, please be flexible. Please don't assume you got all the answers or this is the way we do it around here. So be flexible to listen to what people want, because some people, as I indicated, most people don't want to go back to the office, but if you're in the younger generation, maybe you do, because that's where we get a chance to meet other people and learn from others. But the whole idea of culture only happens in the office is a misnomer.
That's dead.
definitely not true. But a lot of people hang to it. And again, going back to the financial companies in New York, City banks, said, well, you got to come back to the office. That's where you experience the culture. That's where we learn from each other. And oh, really? Is that the case?
So we've been doing nothing for the last 20 months. Nobody's learned anything.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But you're missing the culture piece. No, the culture.
If culture is if culture is how work gets done, we were doing that long before COVID. Mm-hmm. And it really didn't matter so much where.
Yeah.
The ping pong tables were window dressing.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I had an employee one time, this is back when I was running HR for a software company, and I had a CFO who was very old school, very sort of button seat means productivity. And she came to me, as the head of HR and said, this employee is never here before 9:00. Do something about it. And, so now I had to go talk to the guy, and he's a software developer, and he was his first job out of college. He was like 24 years old. And he said to me, and I'll never forget it because I say it all the time. He said, I don't know what it is with you people at 8:00 in the morning. Right? Like I don't do my best work at 8:00 in the morning. So you truly don't want me here.
Yeah, really. I need to have cereal there. I need to have, and it's just crazy because that same kid, again, this isn't that long ago that this happened. They go, if he's being honest, well, tell you what, to get there, to be there at 8 or whenever, that means I got to stop the work I'm doing, pack up my laptop, take a shower, get in the car, drive to the office, take my same laptop out to continue the project. Right. Is that really?
Why break my flow, right?
And now I'm being interrupted by coworkers and.
Yes.
In research, boy, this goes back to the, early mid 80s. I did research on working from home, and I found people I had them log their time and what they're working on, twice as productive. Mm-hmm. Just not even counting the commute, twice as productive because they can be more focused. It depends, of course, on the type of work you're doing as well, but they can dig in deeper and not be distracted. Yeah. And so it's, I hope after you researched that, you went back and I checked into it. I found out why he's getting to start on work at home. And so I told him we need him to continue to do that.
Keep doing that. Yeah, no, this is awesome. Thank you, Dr. Bob, for being here. I want to make sure that anybody that's here gets an opportunity to take advantage of your wisdom while we have you today. So I want to open it up to questions. Who has a question for Dr. Bob? You can just come off mute and say it or type it in the chat, your choice.
Can I throw one out?
Go right ahead, David.
Thank you. So great discussion, very thought-provoking. Really appreciate you sharing your wisdom and experience, Bob. One thing that came to mind as we were discussing the advantages and the realities of moving towards hybrid work and the strong likelihood of people remaining in this newly forming work setting, I couldn't help but think of the many companies I work with and we all are aware of where you have to go to the work to do the work. And there are plenty of companies. I'm thinking of Samsung as one of my clients here in town, and they have a fab plant. You have to go there to do the work. And then there are these surrounding ecosystems of support that kind of go to that fab plant to take care of supply chain issues and so forth, because all the materials kind of move there. But then there's another, as you start moving the ecosystem out, there's a group of working professionals, knowledge workers, who really fit this profile of what we're talking about. And they are now dealing with this kind of have and have not condition in which some people have the luxury of staying home. They don't have to deal with the commute. And others have to go there. And they're having to be very careful with dealing with this modified cultural emergence. And I'm just wondering what you've seen and how companies are reacting to those split organizations where some have to go to where the work is and others don't.
Well, there's even more branches of that because some people, they don't want to go into the office, but they also don't want to work at home because they want to break, and so some companies on that are moving towards setting up office pods around where their workers are, so they can kind of like a WeWork space where they can go there and they've got the advantage of having a break from personal life, or maybe they've got kids at home and can't get as much work done as they'd like, but they still don't want to do the commute to downtown, or the main office.
There is that mindset where I would prefer to go to where work gets done, cross the threshold, and then when I come home, I'm removed from everything associated with work, right? So there's that sensibility. But I'm interested in your perspective on conditions where you have to go to where the work gets done.
Again, it varies from job to job, and if you have to meet the customer, for example, or that's where the equipment is, then that's part of the job. And if you move to the hybrid environment, I think part of the caution is, and I'm seeing it, like my sister works for a government agency, and her boss said, no, everyone has to be in the office because we're not going to play favorites. And so it's easy to make a rule and say everyone has to do this, even though by far, she's much more effective at home. So that we want to avoid the old stereotypes of kind of because I said, because we've always done it this way.
No, I'm with you. But just to press the issue a little bit further, there are some organizations in which you've got split groups in which some people have to go to where the work gets done. They have to go to the lab.
Yes.
They've got to go to the work site and touch the work. And then they're surrounded with colleagues who don't have to. And there's this dynamic that's emerging. I'm just wondering if you've seen it and you've been able to speak to it.
I have seen it. And to me, to deal with that as an employee population, because you can get resentment from the people that have to be in the office and the people that don't. And then I think that's actually an opportunity to say, well, if you like to be a lab worker, this puts you in the direction to get you the training so you can get in line for a job like that.
I was just going to say, that it's kind of a condition of the skills and abilities that you have. And so if you're an organization that has a professional development plan, then you can engage in those conversations in that productive way, but
make it a positive thing.
Right.
Yeah. So that is to me the way out of it. Instead of saying, well, those people are special. Why is someone a knowledge worker? It's ideally it's because we think they've got a higher degree of knowledge that is more useful, and that's why they maybe had that freedom and luxury. But as an organization, if you're giving them privileges that others don't have, then instead of, one way to overcome resentment from those people that don't have it is to show them the path to get a job like that themselves. And that could be through that could be start with skip level meetings with your manager, talk about where you want to be in the future. Sure. I really want to be in that type of job, or I want to be in, there's my son went to, we all have to pivot in our life, to meet the circumstances we want, and companies need to pivot as well. I know I'm very proud of my son because he was a classical guitarist. Went to school at Northwestern and then to USC in classical guitar. He's a very gifted guitarist. But guess what? He found out it was hard to make a living being a classical guitarist. Yeah, newsflash, right? He was doing $150 weddings, and it's like, so he did a hard pivot, and he went to a computer boot camp in San Francisco that Forbes nicknamed 3 months to six figures, and you know what? It found out that being a classical trained guitarist had some great skills that translate very easily to programming. You've got to be creative. You got to be linear at the same time, and a lot of people in programming are not creative. So he excelled at it, and sure enough, he went to this program and he graduated. He got 8 job offers. He talked his girlfriend into doing the same, and her parents said, "No, she's going to quit her job." She was a administrative person, kind of a secretary in a hospital. And she's going to quit her job to go do this, and her parents said, "No, you can't quit. You haven't been there a year. It's going to look bad on your resume."
It's such a parent thing to say,
right? You're going to look like you're a job hopper. And she finally said, I'm doing it. And she did. same program, and graduated, got a job from Apple that she turned down, by the way, because the commute was further than another
to
job.
Sunnyvale. Yeah.
All of a sudden, you got the skills, you can call the shots, and that's where we're moving into in a hurry. That in my son's program, they had doctors, they had fiction writers. Everyone had one thing in common. They did not want to do what they had been doing anymore. They wanted to do something else, and this particularly something that happened to pay very well. And they haven't looked back. They've gotten other people into those programs as well. And so I'm a big believer in the value of education for pivoting. And I think if people don't see that, you're doing a favor to show it to them and to because none of us should feel trapped in our life and our circumstances. And I can't tell you how many people I've met where, gosh, they fell into something and they did it till they hated it, and then they hated their manager, and then they were fired, and they did it again. That's some other. You do that 4 or 5 times, and your career's gone, and you're kind of bitter for the whole thing. And man, oh man, what about some forethought on what you really want to be doing, and now and maybe that's a hobby you have. How can we make that? Yeah. How can you develop that into a paying gig that actually you can earn a living from, and maybe be a lean authority on that hobby, whatever it is. There's a lot of people that have done that, or to be an influencer. Boy, the door is open. You don't have to look far to find kids that are teenagers that are being paid a lot of money for holding up stuff on their social media feed.
Right.
It's a crazy world, but that's the one we're living in, and it's not hard to find the path where you can maximize what you most want out of your life, and that includes doing meaningful work, and it includes being paid to the tune where you can live a standard of living to which you like to live. I'm a big believer in that potential, and you can for any of us, we can pivot at any time in our life. There's no rules that say you can only do that when you just graduate from college or something.
Right.
So we have really gotten off. Maybe this is the whole purpose of the bartender thing here, is to get off of the script, and now we're just talking turkey.
That's right. That's right. Ruby had a great comment in the chat about an idea about giving extra privileges to the people that have to come in, and then asking them what would motivate them. Right. Actually having a conversation with them. I thought that was great. And I'll post that over on the network so we can continue that discussion over there. Dr. Bob, thanks so much for being with us today. This has been great. Big ups to Dr. Bob.
Thank you.
Let's
the applause. No.
For those that can hang around, let's do our funny things, good feels, and our cocktail, and get on out of here for dinner time. Today is funny things. Funny thing number 1: woke up from a nightmare about being tired. Accidentally woke Andy, only to say how exhausted I was. 3:30 a.m. Andy looking around the bed. We can't do any more about it than this.
I could top that. I read a cartoon. The guy wakes up, his wife's groggy with a cup of coffee. He goes, I just had a dream I got 8 hours sleep.
Oh, yeah, because when you wake up in the middle of the night with a nightmare about being tired, you really can't do any more than be in bed. Funny thing number 2, a Florida restaurant chain says boosting pay and offering better benefits helped end its labor shortage.
Go figure.
That's a literal news headline. And I love the tweet here. Fix your labor shortage with this one weird trick.
Of course, that's going to be looking at the level of work that you have as a food server. They probably should have had adjustments to their pay quite a time ago.
Right.
So, man, it's been brutal. Especially, they haven't gotten. I guess a couple companies did kind of combat pay. You're the front lines of COVID, but not enough of them,
Right.
Those that did got it was temporary.
Yeah.
We're so out of sync. With fair pay.
It's sort of where I go with minimum wage. if you're actually paying minimum wage, you don't deserve to have any workers.
Yeah. Tell us how you really feel, Laurel. I wish you were more forthcoming.
I know. I'm always holding back.
Funny thing number 3 here. When it comes to super literal names, you can't beat fireplace. I love this one. Becoming ungovernable. Zoo separates 5 parrots after birds were caught encouraging each other to swear at guests.
Yes. I need a parrot.
Oh, if I could talk to ghosts, I'd always fake Bluetooth. When a living human inevitably heard me chatting with a deadie, that would be my name for them, I'd hold up my finger to my mouth 1 sec and then point to my earpiece, followed by an eye roll and an air jerk-off motion.
Okay.
And my favorite funny thing today, you're feeding me an hour later because of daylight saving time? How the fuck can I read a clock, John?
Wow.
Oh, God. Well, today, Eric, you guys are living up to your fun value. Thanks for doing that.
Today's good feel story is a quick one. Just a couple of minutes here.
Congratulations are in order for Steve Hartman, winner of a just announced Emmy Award.
Thank you.
Send me that clip.
I will do.
Congratulations.
I will do. Today's SemiQuarantine cocktail. Oh, sorry. What was that, Bob?
My sister works for the Marines.
Oh, yeah. I'll definitely send it to you. Definitely send it to you. All right. So today's SemiQuarantine cocktail is the Fizzy and Loud. It's a riff on the gin fizz. You're going to need a little bit of gin, 1 Australian man, and that's important. I'll tell you why in a second. 3/4 ounce of a freshly squeezed lemon or lime juice, 5 years of practice, 3/4 ounce of simple syrup, 1-to-1 ratio, 1 belch that broke the world record at 112.4 decibels, large egg white, optional. He wanted to hold a world record of any sort and need a little bit of soda to taste. The record had been held for a decade by an Englishman. Being Australian, he couldn't stand for that. A little lemon peel for garnish. Guys, thank you so much. Thanks to Dr. Bob for being here. This has been amazing. We will see you next week. Dr. Bob will put this into the production and get it out here in a couple of weeks, and I will send you a note when it goes live. If you guys want to reach Dr. Bob, you have his email, which is bob@drbobnelson.com, if I'm correct.
Right. I put it in the chat as well.
It's in the chat. And if you're here today, you're lucky enough to
address to receive the book.
Yeah, you'll get a book. If you're listening to this, you're gonna have to write Dr. Bob on your own and see what he does.
Eric to sign it for his contribution.
That's right. That's right. Thank you, guys. We'll see you next week. We've got a guest next week as well. I will give you the scoop on that here after the show today over on the network. Thanks again to Dr. Bob. We'll see you guys next week. Take care.
Thank you all.
Have a great week.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for joining us today. If you had a good time and learned a thing or two at today's happy hour, please share it with your friends. If you want to join our tribe, head on over to skyeteam.cloud/TCB or email us at info@skyeteam.com. That's SKYE team.com. Thanks again, and remember, you've always got friends at the Corporate Bartender.